Howdy y'all, Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am back with another weekly garden update here in my North Texas vegetable garden. It is very warm today. As you can tell by the wind chime actually not making noise. The wind is not really blowing either, so it's going to be a bit of a stuffy walkthrough, but let's go ahead and get to it. Alright, as usual, we are starting things out in the tomato patch. I just posted, my most recent video is of the entire clean out, pruning, massive, just, taming the chaos in this space. So it looks quite different than it did a week ago whenever I filmed my last garden update. But the things that are still here are actually a whole lot healthier, having done all of that massive pruning and, just thinning things out and getting things back under control. So in this bed here, let me zoom out a bit so that we're not having to try to pan so much. Okay, I try to be mindful that people might have motion sickness. So in this bed here, I removed all but one cherry tomato plant. The cherry tomato that is left is the Sakura cherry tomato. And if you've kind of been following along all season, you will know that the Sakura tomato is the one that I accidentally pruned very horribly and just replanted it in the ground in hopes that it would take root, and it did. It is growing back. So I left that one to see if we can get some fall tomatoes, because I really want to see the flavor and if these tomatoes are prolific and all of that. I really want to see how this tomato plant actually does. Now, some other changes that were made in this bed, it was so wild and overgrown and just such a hot mess express that there were plants that completely got choked out. They were not getting any sunlight at all, and they just died. So I pulled out 2 or 3 just completely dead plants that weren't getting any light, airflow, any of that stuff. And what we're left with now, of course, is the cherry tomato. We have some basil plants. There's 1, 2, 3 basils. We have this Italian oregano right here that is doing really well. We have the hot and spicy oregano down at that end, and we have 1 lone marigold, and then a borage here, some tomatillos. We still have these 2 tomatillos. I cut down the other one last week. It just was not producing anything since it didn't have any buddies near it. And these really aren't producing either, even though they're right next to each other. There's still only the 1 single tomatillo that has actually formed on these. So I don't know. I keep waffling back and forth on if I'm just gonna cut this down and call it a loss for this year, or keep trying. It'd be nice to have the space because the fall garden planning and planting is starting to ramp up, so it would be nice to have the space, but part of me is also like, man, I really want salsa verde. So I don't know, I'll figure it out, and then I'll let you guys know in the next update what I've decided. But we also have the eggplant. I added these stakes yesterday because they were just kind of flopped every which direction since they didn't have those tomato plants to give them any sort of support anymore, which has really helped them. And I didn't realize how big these plants actually were because, they were flopped over and not standing up. But we do have some eggplants growing. I have harvested a lot. I have made baba ganoush with some, and then I made eggplant pizza with several. That basically, you slice up the eggplants, I can probably use this one tomorrow. So you slice it this direction, and it essentially makes up your pizza crust. And so then you'll just add a little bit of sauce and mozzarella basil, you know. You can't really put as many toppings on that because it's just like a round disc, but it still tastes really, really good. It's a whole lot healthier than eating like a bread type crust. So we really like that a lot. The kids don't eat it, of course, but Jake and I really like that. So it looks like I'm growing eggplant this year just for Pizza Fridays, which is great. And then yesterday I planted some squash right here. I am still attempting to grow squash, and I'm going to keep attempting to grow squash until the end of time because I'm going to tackle that beast. Everybody says it's a really easy vegetable to grow. For whatever reason, it is dang near impossible for me, but I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna get some squash out of this garden, y'all, one way or another. So this middle bed has the most tomato plants still remaining. This one had the most healthy plants still left in it. So I left the plants that were healthy. Obviously, I left the plants that were still producing. This porter tomato is the one that is the most prolific. You can see it still has quite a few tomatoes on it in July in North Texas. That's amazing to me because, you know, it's hot here in March, but it's amazing to me that the porter is still, it just has so many tomatoes still on it. And then I still have the Super Sue here. This plant just looks so healthy. So I am going to try to get some fall tomatoes off of this. This one is Creole, I'm pretty sure. The tags are over there, so I could go over there and read them, but you know, I'm just gonna wing it like usual. So I see some blooms that are starting to happen. Hopefully the shade cloth keeps it cool enough under here that those are able to set. The porter, I don't see any new blooms at the moment, although I wouldn't be surprised. But you know, it does have a lot of fruit on it, so super cool. This is a Costoluto Genovese, and it had branched off, I kid you not, in 6 different directions, and it went this way and it went that way. It was everywhere. So I pulled off all of the green tomatoes that were on it, and I just trimmed it back to this one piece of greenery right here in hopes to get some fall tomatoes come through on the Costoluto Genovese, because it is a really good tasting tomato plant. And then this one is a mystery tomato. I think it's probably an Arkansas Traveler because it matches the size and shape and color and all of that of this Arkansas Traveler. So I'm good with that. This one I think is Louisiana Pink, and then this is of course the Arkansas Traveler. There's lots of new healthy growth on these. I see possibly some blooms that may happen soon. I'm just letting these grow in hopes to get some fall tomatoes, put some more canned tomatoes back for, you know, winter use. I'm just gonna set these labels down so that I can just get them cleaned out of the garden. So whenever I cleared out this bed, it was so like overgrown and wild with tomato plants that a lot of stuff in here got absolutely zero sunlight. Like this was a lemon thyme, and it was getting so little sunlight that it just kind of stopped growing and lost a lot of its leaves and its greenery, its leaves and stuff. So I'm hoping that now that it is getting the filtered light because we have the shade cloth over, but I'm hoping that it will kind of bounce back a little bit because I really do like lemon thyme. I also planted another squash variety right here. This holy basil is just starting to take off now that it's getting lots of light. I will harvest a lot of this to use for tea. This has a lot of medicinal and health benefits, so definitely want to make sure that I get all of this that I can. There's a few other varieties of basil down this bed. Then we have the cowpeas. This is the phenomenal variety that's growing in here, and now that they're getting more light, they're actually starting to grow quite a bit more. They were quite stunted, and like these super dark green leaves are all brand new after cleaning out this bed. And then we have some more cowpeas here, and then this one here that has been producing for quite a while. You can see where I've harvested quite a few off of it, and some more that are growing, some more blooms. So really exciting there. But this is really interesting. So I think this may be a radish that had never germinated because it didn't have enough sunlight in here before, and I had planted it to protect the cucumber that I planted that also never germinated. So I will laugh uncontrollably if a cucumber just randomly starts growing there. I think that will be really funny. I'm really happy with how this bed looks now. It's much cleaner, it's much less cluttered, there's more airflow through here. Obviously the plants that are left are really happy to have the light and the air and the space and all of those things. This situation makes me really happy. And then over here, the front tomato bed that had the largest tomato varieties planted in it. I also cut down all of the ones that were on this front side here. They were sick, and the birds were eating the tomatoes that just were growing. And then I am trying to get a fall run of the Rebel Starfighter Prime and Thorburns Terracotta. And then I have Italian Heirloom down here on the end, and another Thorburns Terracotta that's like leaned way over. But I want to show you guys how much this shade cloth has helped with the health of these plants. Okay, so there's the Thorburns Terracotta. That one has been a pretty good plant overall. But here is the Rebel Starfighter Prime, right? Now this is the part that's out in the sun. I really need to run another line of trellis through here, but I haven't done it yet. This is the part that's out in the sun. It's grody looking. I could probably just like cut that down, but I haven't. This is another part that's out in the sun. Kind of grody. It also gets a little bit of shade from this basil, so it's not as grody. But this part right here is under the shade cloth. And look how green and healthy, and it's got blooms, and you know, it just overall looks a lot better than the rest of the plant. Same thing with the Thorburns Terracotta here. The new growth is super healthy. It doesn't look like it's too affected with spider mites, although I need to come spray down that leaf right there. And then same thing down here. There's just like new healthy growth where the plants are underneath the shade cloth, which is great. That makes me feel like I will get a fall run of the larger tomatoes, which is very useful for making sauces and canned tomato products, because then you need less tomatoes. So pretty cool stuff. Now, one of the benefits to just overplanting these beds and having way too much in them is the fact that the hornworm issue was much smaller this year compared to previous years. I have had 6 hornworms in total thus far this year, and in years prior, we're talking dozens of hornworms would be on my tomatoes. So I really feel like having all of those different plants planted so close to each of the tomatoes really slowed down the hornworm, population, because there's marigolds and basil, and there is calendula in here in some of the beds. If it survived Christi's chaos gardening, there's the peas in here. I mean, there's a whole lot of everything going on in all of these beds. So I think that did help ward off a lot of pests. Really the only bad pests that I dealt with was spider mites. And then a few weeks ago, I battled the leaf-footed bugs, but I got that under control very, very quickly. It only took me a few days and they were all gone. So I think densely planting the beds, even though they look wild and out of control, really does do a lot to help control, you know, bad bugs. So really pleased with how the tomato season has gone so far this year. I'm especially chuffed that in July there's still tomatoes growing. That just brings me so much joy. But over here, these beds are still a bit wild. They're quite bushy. They're, you know, very much alive. Very much alive. There's a lot of life in these raised beds, and it is amazing to me because these beds are in full sun almost the entirety of the day. They get a very little bit of shade at the very end of the day. So they just get hammered by heat and sun all day long, and there's just so much life still happening within them. And I think part of the reason why is the okra. So okra loves heat. So the hotter it is, the better it is going to do. And you can see that it's almost as tall as the fence at this point. So it's going to be taller than the fence very quickly. So as it gets taller, it does help cast some shade on the rest of the stuff that's in these beds. So that does help a bit. The other thing that helps obviously is regular watering. And then I have straw mulch in all of the beds to help retain moisture, help insulate the roots, all of those things. And then there are also lots of companion plants again in these beds to assist with pest pressure. I'm sure you can see some of the stuff fluttering around. There's wasps, and then there's hoverflies in there. I have had a praying mantis for sure in this bed. I don't know if it's still in here. I haven't seen it in a few days, but I'm just blown away by the productivity in these two beds alone. Not even counting the tomato beds, but these two beds alone, the productivity is just awesome. So let's just point out some of the cool stuff that's going on here besides the okra growing. So the cardinal basil is forming the flower head, and every day I come out here and I admire this particular basil because it's so beautiful. As you can tell, the flower head on that is a very deep burgundy, and it's like big and round. Just for reference, other basil looks like this whenever it goes to seed. It makes like a tall spike and the flowers come off of that spike. But this is like a cluster of flowers, and it's just so beautiful to me. I'm just letting it do its beautiful thing there. It brings me so much joy. As you can see, the okra is blooming. There's a few plants all the way down where okra is blooming. There's okra growing on all the plants. Banana peppers. I just put up 2 pints of pickled banana peppers on Friday, and I picked almost everything out here, and as you can see, I need to come back through and harvest again already. Bell peppers, they are taking a little bit of damage from the sun. Like you can see, that is sun scald right there on that one. Okay, my phone overheated, so I'm not 100% sure where I left off on this. I was talking about this bell pepper. It is sun scalded, so I will need to come out here with my pruning shears and trim that off so the plant isn't wasting its energy trying to develop an icky fruit. But there are some healthy bell peppers here, and this one is starting to ripen, and it's so cute. I'm just trying to let it ripen as much on the vine as I can in the hopes that no grasshoppers eat it. We'll see. And then over here, This is Black Beauty zucchini. As you can see, the plant is finally becoming giant. It was blooming this morning. I've only had male blooms still at this point. I have fertilized it. It's well watered, all of those things. So we'll see. And then I have the yellow scallop squash in here as well. It is starting to grow and you can see the little blooms there. So that's really cute. And then we have more of the same situation in this raised bed. Okra along the back, some okra blooming, some okra growing. I do want to point out one of the potential issues with growing okra. The ants really love it. So there. I think there might be aphids there, and they have like a weird creepy relationship with aphids, or they just really love okra. I haven't figured out which, but every morning when I water, I just spray the ants off to try to reduce the damage to the fruits as much as I can. And then, you know, later in the day they're back, but what can you do? The Lecia pepper is so darling. I love it so much. So these I dehydrate and use for paprika, and then I have these mulatto isleno. I have been dehydrating and grinding up. I actually put some in my taco marinade today, so we'll see how that turns out. And then more okra, more peppers, purple beauty bell. So you can see kind of what I mean about as the okra plant grows, it casts some shade on the pepper plants, which is great. It's going to prevent fruits like this one from getting sun scald and grow healthy and stuff. Now that one does have some sun scald on it, so there's a few out here I need to trim off. But like I said, overall I'm so happy with how lovely and prolific these two beds are. Okay, for scale, I am 5'6". I think maybe the fence is only like 6 foot. And here is one of my okra plants. This is an Alabama red, and I think it's taller than me now, and it's July, so it still has the rest of July and August and September and all of those months to get through, and I think that it's just going to be as giant as it was last year, which brings me so much joy. So yay, okra! Okay, so over here in front of the greenhouse, I'm not sure if I've shown you guys this in previous updates or not, but some of those heat tolerant flowers that I started a few weeks ago, they were transplanted over here in front of the greenhouse, and as you can see, they're doing pretty well. So this is going to be a Benary's giant zinnia. This is a Cosmo, another Benary's giant zinnia, and I'm pretty sure that's a Gomphrena. It looks a little nibbled, but we'll see. I think that's a Gomphrena, if I can remember correctly. This was the Bells of Ireland. It does really well in the spring, but once it gets hot, it says, no thank you. I feel you, Bells of Ireland. I am the same way. But at this point, I'm just letting it drop as many seeds as it can into that soil so that they'll grow back next year. Now, onto the sunflower patch. One thing that I did do to help the sunflower patch get more sunlight is I trimmed this tree a little bit, and that is allowing more sunlight to get through here, which is great. It's going to help the grass grow where it is bare in a lot of spots, and then it's giving more sunlight to the sunflower patch here. The hurricane that recently came through Houston and Galveston did bring us some wind, not really much rain, so it knocked over a few sunflowers. So I cut those down yesterday, so there was one in there that was knocked way down, and then two over here, and then there were just some others that had already lived out their whole lives, so I cut those down as well. But I have also already resown more sunflower seeds, not where I just cut them down, but these were already empty cells, so you can see where they're starting to germinate and grow. So we should have some fall sunflowers here, which will be really fun. All right, I get to stand in a shady part for this part of the weekly update. So we're here in front of the flower bed. I if you have watched any of the recent updates or other planting videos, you will know that a lot of this stuff was just planted in a couple of weeks ago, and it's growing really healthy. These zinnias are looking really good. We have gomphrena over there. We have sunflowers. There's new marigolds. There's cosmos. All of that stuff is growing really beautifully all the way down the flower bed. So I'm really happy about that. Here in probably a month, we should start seeing blooms from some of these things, which will be absolutely beautiful through here. And it will be a nice bright spot in the middle of a very hot August, hopefully. But one thing that I did want to point out is this beautiful Rudbeckia here. Just wanted to take a minute because both of these flowers are on the same plant. Maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, they're both absolutely stunning. I think this is part of the Sahara Rudbeckia. The one down at the other end is definitely Sahara, and whenever I looked at those flowers, it showed these two colors and then the color down there that I'll show you here in just a second. But man, I just love these so much. And these are perennial, so they should come back next year, which will be amazing because they'll be even bigger and even more beautiful. So yeah, I just want to admire that for just a minute. These are going to be really beautiful in fall whenever the fall colors really start popping throughout the flower bed. And then the snapdragons that just won't quit. You can see they're still making flowers. I love these things. But we'll kind of take a walk down, point out a couple of other little things that are happening. And we have agastache here. This plant seems to be pretty happy. It's growing quite a bit. I think it might be a perennial, so we'll see if it comes back next year. It'll be really cool if it does. And then eggplant on a stick. Try not to stab myself on it because it is a violent plant. We have another eggplant on a stick. We have feverfew here that's about to bloom. That's also what that is, although that one is not about to bloom yet. But then, you know, we have more of the same down here. Amaranth, zinnias, marigolds, those types of things. But this is that other Sahara Rudbeckia, and it's just so absolutely beautiful that so dreamy. All right, moving up onto the patio where the green stalks are. It's basically fully planted out with cowpeas now, and the cool thing about cowpeas is the hotter it is, the more productive they seem to be, as long as they get plenty of water and you don't let them dry completely out. I have cowpeas all over this thing back here, so I'll definitely have enough to share this year, which is super. I'm very happy about that. And now I'm back in the sun, so let me try to find some shade to keep this update going. Over here we have the pepper green stalk, and I'm standing in the shade, so you guys are getting a different angle than you usually do of it. You kind of get the side that does get some shade, so you can see it's really starting to bloom out now. So hopefully we really start getting a ton of peppers in. That will be really excellent because I've just been kind of just harvesting the few that we get here and there and using them almost right away. So it'll be really excellent if these start becoming more prolific. The ones that have been prolific is this Buena Mulata right here. It just continues to put new peppers on all the time. There's lots of jalapeno plants in here. There's a few serranos. There's a few sugar rush peach. There's a few baquinos. Then come over here in the shade. These mushroom peppers. These I have just been dehydrating and crushing up for crushed red pepper. I actually don't know what they taste like. We haven't tried them yet. But I'm not really sure like how to use them other than that. So that's what I've been doing with them. You can see there are jalapenos that are setting. This plant has several on it, so that makes me happy. And then we have serranos that are setting. The cayenne has a couple on it. It hasn't been super prolific yet, but I do see blooms on it. And then it's just kind of the same story all the way around. Now, one big difference from last week is that I did remove all of the orange marigolds that were growing in here, just because they were suffering so badly from the heat. So we only have the yellow marigolds left, which is fine because they're still perfectly healthy. It's really interesting how that works. I'm going to stand in the shade for just a minute, and I'll just like kind of point from afar for a minute. Okay, so the pink green stalk has strawberries planted in it. There's still only a few strawberry plants growing. I don't expect any more to grow this year. If none of the other crowns come back next year, then I will address that issue then. I don't want to spend any more money on strawberry plants at this point, knowing that we're not going to eat any this season anyway. So just kind of keeping it well watered, you know, the few plants that are growing, keeping them alive and healthy, and hopes that the other crowns return next year, you know, along with the ones that are growing new growth. And then the last green stalk on the end down there, that is the hodgepodge green stalk. Let's see if I can find a shady spot to stand in. I'm trying to keep my phone from overheating, and also myself, because it's quite hot out here. So this has a lot in it. It's kind of wild and chaotic, much like the rest of the garden. So it, you know, it's on theme basically. So we have mint that is absolutely minting all over the place, everywhere. We have cinnamon basil here. This is Persian basil up here. There's lots of patio. It's a patio variety of okra. I think it's called Little Bubba or something. So lots of patio varieties of okra up on here. I've harvested a few. I expect there to be more as we get into all the hotter part of summer. Like here's one here that I can harvest. Pretty cute. We have some peppers on this side. These are like the super hot habanero, lemon habanero. There's a Carolina Reaper around the corner there. And then this isn't a super hot, but it is an Aleppo pepper, which is used in like Mediterranean and Moroccan cuisine. Not really much else that's super noteworthy in here. It's all just a random hodgepodge of things that are growing and pretty healthy, doing really well despite the heated temperatures. This is the lime tree. It does have 3 limes that are growing. I'm very proud of these 3 limes. They're the most expensive limes in the world, apparently, because they've taken me forever to grow them. And then we have some perennial flowers back here, hardy hibiscus, oak leaf hydrangea, and then a mum that I recently pruned all of the blooms off of. And then we have these zinnias here that are absolutely darling, and then another little zinnia there. But that is pretty much the whole garden as it stands here in North Texas in early to mid-July. It's not doing too badly. There's a lot of life happening, and it brings me a ton of joy to see how well everything is still doing at this point in the growing season. But that'll do it for this week's weekly update. I do have some seeds started on the patio, but they're right in the blasting heat of the sun at the moment, and my phone is overheating, and so am I, and so is the dog. So I will try to show you guys those on the next weekly update. So that's it for this weekly update. If you do like content like this and you like to see how the garden changes from week to week, feel free to give me a like and subscribe and comment and all the YouTube-y things. It's greatly helping out my channel. But until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!